If there is no God, how should we live? Introducing the philosopher Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, which offers the most provocative answer to that question. The advancements in science at the end of the 19th century, during Nietzsche's time, shook humanity's worldview. The era when God decided everything has passed and people have come face to face with emptiness. At that time, a philosopher declares the death of God. That person was Friedrich Nietzsche, and the book containing that declaration is Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This book is Nietzsche's representative work and encompasses his philosophy. The protagonist borrows the name Zarathustra, the founder of ancient Persian Zoroastrianism, but is actually a character created by Nietzsche to convey his philosophy. The format flows like a novel, but it contains the essence of Nietzsche's thought. It is a unique work where story, philosophy, and literature are completely intertwined. Thus spoke Zarathustra. God is dead. This statement is not a mere religious provocation. It is a declaration that the era of believing in God has ended, and a harsh realization that all the values humanity has followed until now have been discarded. So how should we live? If one only chases happiness derived from pleasure, Nietzsche likens it to the flies of the marketplace. In the endlessly repeating cycle of life, the only one who can find meaning is humanity itself. Thus spoke Zarathustra. I love those who are falling, live dangerously and fail, and love that turmoil. Nietzsche expresses this in his famous saying, Amor fati, which means love your fate. It means not to resent the fate you are given, but to affirm it as it is. An important concept in this process is eternal recurrence. Nietzsche asks, if your current life were to repeat infinitely, would you still be able to affirm that life? Nietzsche describes 3 stages of human growth. First, the camel, a stage where one carries heavy burdens and says yes while obeying commands. Second, the lion, a stage where one roars no and resists authority and fate. Finally, the child, a stage that affirms fate, gets back up after falling, and creates a new world. Nietzsche calls the perfected being that emerges from this process the Übermensch, or Superman. When Zarathustra shouted to become the Übermensch, people said this, Zarathustra Übermensch, you become one. Nietzsche understood him. Most people would not understand his words. It is said that the third part of this book was so neglected that only 6 copies were sold. But Nietzsche prophesied, right now no one understands what I'm saying. But 100 years from now, there will be professors teaching my book and people reciting my words. The phrase, God is dead, might lead one to view this book solely as a post-religious philosophical text. However, perhaps Nietzsche was writing a new scripture. For those who do not believe in God, just as Thales of ancient Greece left his name as the first philosopher by exploring the nature of things, not as dictated by the will of the gods, but through a scientific lens. Nietzsche opened up a new era of human-centered way of thinking that transcended the Christian God. Although the subjects are different, they are similar in that both are revolutionaries who changed the paradigms of their times. Thus, Nietzsche remains a thinker who made a significant mark in the history of philosophy. When reading the book, the words of Zarathustra are sometimes as beautiful as poetry, and at other times come flying like daggers, piercing the heart. This book is not easy to read. It contains many abstract metaphors and similes, and sometimes the meaning doesn't quite come through on the first read. However, that is precisely what makes this book appealing. Every time I read it, I see different meanings, and it gives me completely new insights, depending on the stage of life. Nietzsche says, man is something that must be overcome. Do you love your destiny? And are you ready to move toward the Übermensch? Thus spoke Zarathustra.